Notice of special meeting, Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District, March 22nd, 2022. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Directors of Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District of the County of Jefferson, State of Colorado will hold a special meeting at 6 p.m. Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022 at 13919 West Utah Avenue, Lakewood, Colorado 80228. This meeting will be held for the purpose of conducting such business as may come before the board. This meeting is open to the public. Virtual meeting option. For those who may not be able to attend in person, the district will offer the option of participating in this meeting via video/conference call. To attend, please go to https://www.zoom.us/j/895-33225-776 or call 1-669-900-6833 and enter the meeting ID 895-3322-5776. To troubleshoot issues with the connection at the time of the meeting, please follow the link https://support.zoom.us/en-sections//200-305-593-troubleshooting. If you still experience issues, email customerservice@greenmountainwater.org and our IT staff will assist you as soon as possible. The district does not discriminate on the basis of race, age, national origin, color, creed, religion, sex, sexual orientation, or disability in the provision of services. People with disabilities needing reasonable accommodation to attend or participate in the district board meeting can call 303-985-1581 or email customerservice@greenmountainwater.org for assistance. Please give notice as far in advance as possible so we may accommodate your request. Agenda item number 1 is call to order, declaration of a quorum. Jeff Baker, president here.
Dave Garner, present.
Todd Hooks, present.
Karen Morgan here.
Alex Plotkin, virtually present.
So we have all 5 directors. I'm going to declare a quorum. We'll close out agenda item number 1. Agenda item number 2 is directors matters, disclosure matters. Are there any disclosure from any of the directors?
No.
Okay, gone. We'll close agenda item number 2. Open agenda item number 3, approval of additions to and deletions from the agenda. Anybody?
No, but just a point. Do we have minute taker? Is that Brett? This time?
Ethan's up there. Or,
Alex.
let's see.
There's not 2 Alexes.
Alex.
It hasn't been Alex.
Is that
I'm not sure.
Who's the scribe?
I don't see a scribe on at the moment.
You can rely on audio for the transcript.
Yep.
Yeah.
CRS
or CGRS, I forget their acronym, but
Yeah.
they can produce minutes for their recording.
Do you have any?
no additions?
Okay.
I have a question whether or not it'd be appropriate to put it on the addition is the matter of the engineer. Or do you want to take that up under?
We could add that.
Like the new position?
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, let's, if we could add that, no one objects.
So you want to make? Do we need a motion that to change?
Yeah, for an addition to the
I
agenda.
move the addition of discussion of the engineer position.
I will second. Discussion. No discussion. Call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes. There will be 0 nays. So we will move that to agenda item probably number 8. Or number 9. I don't know if we're gonna have executive session tonight.
Well, that's what I wanted to discuss. I told Scott that I would let him know if the directors wanted him to call in. I would text him. He is available to appear, and I think it might be beneficial to hear from him. But he's not going to call in unless I tell him to.
Wouldn't we want to have an executive discussion of your email to us from the developer?
Yes, either with me, I'm happy to do that, or with Scott. I think probably it's more Scott's purview.
Oh, that one is too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
But
Yeah,
I would
Dylan's
consider
keeping
that
an
a
eye on
litigation
things.
matter.
okay. Well, I think we ought to have a discussion of it.
So we'll keep the executive session. We will make this agenda item number 11. Okay, if everyone's okay with that. So that is in the addition to. I'm going to close out agenda item number 3 and move into agenda item number 4, public comment. Limit 5 minutes per person. For past motion of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation Board of Directors, May 11, 2021. Members of the public wishing to address the board during the public comment period are asked to keep their comments civil and related to the items in the agenda or to the conduct of the district business. Members of the public wishing to address the board will be recognized by the board to maintain proper decorum. Since Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District Board values your input, we will always offer additional opportunities for the public to provide comments by using the district's email system or by phoning into our customer service in the event they do not get on during the meeting, during the period set aside for public comment. At this time, do we have anybody from the public that would wish to speak? Going. Raise your hands if you're online.
Sorry, it's Brett.
Hi, Brett. Would you like to speak?
Just really briefly, if possible.
Your public comment. Go ahead, sir.
Sure. Brett Blank with American Homes. I was there at the meeting a couple weeks ago about the exposition property, and I've been speaking with Jeff. I didn't know, Jeff, if this is the right time, or is it just wait for that to come up?
I would wait for it to come up. We're going to be getting into that.
Okay, perfect.
Shortly here, and we could allow you to go ahead and comment at that time, if that's all right.
That's perfect. Nothing else for me then. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Okay, is there anyone else online? Raise your hand. Okay, going and gone. So I'm closing out public comment, agenda item number 4, and going to agenda item number 5, the American West Notice of Award.
Okay, today I talked to Terry and we're still collecting the data for the bypass pumping, so we'll have it in next board meeting.
Okay. Any other comments on that at this time?
No, we'll give you a full report in the next board meeting, so we're all on the same page.
Okay, questions, directors, anything for Jeff?
No.
Okay. All righty. I will close out agenda item number 5. We will, you're gonna remember to put this on for us.
Yes, sir.
We can talk about that for the addition or new business. Okay, so agenda item number 5 is closed. Agenda item number 6 is 10700 West Exposition. We have 2 items under this, is the collection line assessment, and B is the cost allocation for Kipling replacement.
Before we get into that.
Yeah.
Too much in depth, I have a motion to propose. And I can speak to it before I propose it, if I may.
Absolutely.
All right. We seem to have had a position of all of us on flow before, understanding that our number 0.7 is lower than other numbers. And you spoke quite eloquently to cost and reimbursement and that, making sure our constituents were taken care of it. I was thinking about that. I realized if we can't point to a specific policy, it's probably time for the board to decide what our policy is. And so therefore, my motion is, at least up for discussion now, is this: I move that It is the policy of Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District that our waste water capacity flow of 0.7 is in effect as the district policy. At which level we would consider taking action to improve the flow to below 0.7 through either capital improvements or other means. Further, when new development is planned or anticipated to impact the 0.7 level, the board will work with developers or new users to ensure, quote, within limits, unquote, waste flows from the district to Denver Waste. And developers should anticipate that this will be a cost sharing activity. Period.
I have to say, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think that our infrastructure.
And so we have a motion, so. we
Oh,
need to
and
have-
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a second, now we can have discussion. So go ahead, Mr. Hooks.
Well, I will second the motion. And then I was gonna say, you know, I agree with you wholeheartedly because I think as I grasp, I guess, the aging of our infrastructure, I don't think that we want to take for granted that after 60 or 70 years that we have, I mean, at the time, I think it was adequate for all the development, all the stuff, but now, I mean, I definitely think that we need to protect the infrastructure that we have and not basically put so much capacity in it that we put it in a potential harm's way.
And the flow from exposition is in old clay pipe.
Right, and so,
And, you know, to me, it just makes no sense for us to not anticipate that we need to, in an area that's sort of, is ripe for growth.
right,
I mean, you can drive, I drove in this area just a few days ago, and as I was driving through, I'm looking at all this horse pasture. It's just ripe for homes. And you know, the city of Lakewood is gonna go there. So I think we owe it to our constituents to be upfront, forward, and plan for that. And if we don't establish a policy of 0.7, we're asking to try to do it in a hurry when it gets up to 0.8 and we're in the position where we can't support new development, which is exactly what the city of Lakewood has told us they don't want to see from us.
There's a good point, and I agree with what you said. I think, I was thinking about the same thing. Might have had a different limit, but it needs to be done. I think because right now our rules and regs say that we can upsize at our discretion. So I think that we can do it without a number because the pipes are different and then it's, however, we're in this position now, and you look at that master plan study, and some of those pipes are at 100%, 0.9999%, and we still don't have them on a priority plan to
Right.
upsize.
that's my problem, that
Exactly.
I agree, and like, our infrastructure needs to be maintained in such a way
Right,
that, I mean, when someone comes along, it's not a, oh my gosh, how do we correct this today? It should be viable prior to them being there.
that's right, that's right.
Absolutely.
I mean, in my mind,
And you might ask, you know, well, why now? Well, I'm a short-term guy here. I'm only here another month or plus a few days. And I don't want to leave you guys in a position where you don't have a number that you can change. I mean, you may well want to change it soon, but absent a number that we can point to in policy, what do we have to work with?
Right, it
We just
has
have
worked.
everybody's opinion.
Yeah.
And a policy is not
and
opinion.
I will honestly say, I mean, not being an engineer, but from an accounting financial standpoint, I like the idea of boundaries and limits and things that are in place so that people are not making, one, random decisions, two, I don't want it so that if, you know, I don't mean this is far reaching, but if someone's friend comes in, all of a sudden we're willing to bend the rules, whereas to me, I think, you know, the boundaries should be set so that it's not a question if, you know, Jeff gets to say, oh yeah, we'll go up to 0.95. I don't think that should be really an option for any of us. I think it should be set to the confines that keep our district safe and viable.
So that's my question is how did we get here? If we had a thing at 0.7, then we're at 0.77, and then we would go up to 0.81. At what point does our engineer or somebody say, okay, that should trigger something? And it doesn't seem like nothing's being triggered. And we need to have a line in the sand where we can at least identify that. Because I don't know if that was supposed to be up to the board at some random point, like, well, that's probably good enough. And then we call it. It should be standardized. And I know we had talked with you about bringing in, having engineering standards in place. So this would be one of them. Yes.
And a staff engineer.
Yeah, and we'll get to that on agenda item 11, but.
I agree.
I just
I
want
think
to mention that so it all wraps up.
We don't have anything for the public or people to see that, I mean, we have rules and regulations, but somehow this didn't trigger anything. So I don't know how you can go from a 0.7 to a 0.77 to a 0.81, and we're just sitting here at some random point. It's like, feels like a Wheel of Fortune to me. And I don't like it.
Just imagine if you were someone who's buying one of these, that's going to be a beautiful home, Brett. It's good. I know you guys produce beautiful properties, but I'd hate to be a homeowner and suddenly find out after I just spent X $100,000 for a new home, find out that the sewer line is old and clay and near capacity. What did I just buy? I mean, that's not fair. We owe it to those people, not just to the developers. We owe it to the people that are going to buy the homes to have a standard
Well,
and to
even
apply.
to our own, I mean, I did not realize until the solar report came out that there were so many red,
Red.
Yeah.
Red zones.
9999.
Yeah. that's
you know,
pretty standard.
not just like yellow caution, like red.
Mhm.
And again, having controls in place, I think is good because it doesn't leave it up to us to individually or someone to get influenced or to get changed. I think it just kind of says, hey, we need to take care of this and make it right, whether it's us maintaining our infrastructure for existing customers or creating the viability for new developments, either way.
So Dylan, do we need to have a second motion? I mean, is what Director Garner provided in his description, will that work, or do we need to add additional language in an additional motion to this?
I think that motion was for the, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I heard was you moved for the creation of a policy that essentially the district will take action or will begin taking action when a stretch of infrastructure exceeds 0.7 flow.
The intent of my
Definitely.
motion is to create that policy.
Create policy, yeah, with some sort of enforcement
And
mechanism.
it builds on what you said last time about we have discretion. I'm saying discretion ought to start at some point.
Yeah,
And
and
so that's what I'm trying to do is have the trigger mechanism.
yeah,
The board may choose to do nothing, but at least we'll be informed when we reach that. And as it impacts development, I can't imagine the past boards would have liked to have thought about that as they discussed this property before. And I don't think, at least in, well, I wasn't here, but I haven't heard from any of you that that was the case. So
I would actually add on to that is I mean, again, and frankly, it's just at this point, I'm annoyed with it because I've spoken to the safety factor, and this is exactly what I meant by it numerous times. And it seemed to me that from the engineering side of things, it was basically ignored to when I spoke to it. And so here we are, having this discussion, and it's not fair to even the developers. It's not fair to our constituents. It's not fair to anybody that this was not codified already. And, we would get these wishy-washy inputs from the engineering side of things. On one hand would be red, on the other hand would be told immediately that everything is fine. So that to me is rather disingenuous, if you will. And so, yes, I agree with where you're trying to go, Director Gardner. And again, I just think we should just clean up the language if needs be, and otherwise fully on board with this.
I think it sounds like everybody's on board. Great motion. The only quick, can you read it one more time? Because I have the same discretion question. It sounds like you are thinking that this triggers the action. We can decide what to do from there. Does that also apply to how we do the cost sharing and things like that? Should all be, we'll figure out what to do at that point, right?
It probably needs some more policy development in terms of what that cost sharing would be. There ought to be a way to create a formula. I'm not smart enough tonight to do that.
Right. So at this point, we have to leave it as a, we'll figure it out.
The policy establishes there is a trigger.
Yes.
Yet to be established is the policy of how the board responds to that trigger.
Right.
And I think the board can do what it does within the boundaries of existing rules and policy at its discretion.
So my recommendation would be that the motion be for staff to draft a policy reflecting the board's intention to correct infrastructure exceeding 0.7 depth of flow observed, or whatever. Because whatever that correction is gonna be different. And 0.7, that's the policy decision that the board's making, 0.7.
Mhm.
It's not an engineering question, because maybe the engineers, I mean, they're just gonna do what you tell them to do. So if your tolerance is for 0.8, make the policy 0.8. If it's 0.6, whatever it is, I think 0.7 is the board's preference. But
Well, I can shorten my motion then.
Yeah.
If that would help.
And I don't think that the board should be developing the specific language of that policy, because that's gonna be something that staff's much better suited to. You know, what's that going to trigger? Is it going to trigger, we need to put it on the 5-year capital improvement plan list, or is it gonna be the 10-year, or is that gonna be, this is the point at which emergency repairs need to be initiated? I don't think so, but you all and I are not competent to make that part of the decision probably, and I think that that's where that's Jeff's strength. And
I'm okay with modifying my motion as long as you guys get the intent behind everything I said. I tried to be pretty clear, and I really want us to not sit on our hands on this one. So
Is the motion fine then as it is, as a policy statement? I mean, I thought that was.
yeah, I think it's fine. You
it's on the record.
You
Yeah.
moved to develop a policy at 0.7.
Mhm.
And if that's approved, there will be a policy drafted for your review and your approval.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, any further discussion on this motion? Alex? Okay, I'm gonna close discussion and call the vote. All in favor of the motion of the 0.7 depth capacity, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays, so the motion passes. So this will be our new policy going forward.
Yes.
All right.
Well, just to amend that slightly, upon your adoption of it. So when that policy's been drafted, I think that the board should review it and amend the rules and regulations to incorporate it.
Okay.
Take a quick look. See, we communicated well enough.
Sooner than better.
Could we have that by
Sooner than
the
later.
first meeting? Could we have that in April?
That's what I'm
Yes.
saying.
That's pretty easy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Couple of weeks.
If I thought of this earlier than today, I could have done it. But I just did too many things on the plate.
Okay, so we've done that. We're now at collection line assessment. Who's taking the poke at this? Who's up the back?
I'll do the PowerPoint. It'll be real brief, but it kind of backs up everything we're talking about.
Has everybody read the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
I don't,
Well, I did earlier.
I'm comfortable not having a presentation. Words ought to speak for themselves.
Okay.
I don't want you to
Did
have
look
to
at the
talk to us when we read it.
PowerPoint? Okay.
Good. And it's very useful. I really appreciate it. But, we can read.
Yeah, bullet point in the PowerPoint is PVC pipe is good at 80%, but since we're dealing with clay pipe, you should set the standard better because of the resistance of flow with clay pipe. That's why we included those pictures in there. You can see there's, just like Jared said, Director Terry's you've got older pipes, so we could set that standard easily at 70%,
Yeah,
0.7.
I think our constituents deserve the best pipe we can give them for, it's cost effective.
Well, and I think it's also, getting into the level of what changes what would change that, right? And you have to have a threshold. You've got the pay as you go with development, which is what should be enforced. And if we don't have some sort of threshold, at what point does this go on? I mean, when do we say this triggers something?
Yeah, there's a lot of districts with older collection pipes that have standards at 0.5, so.
Is that right?
I'm not being dismissive of your work on the
No,
power
I
plant. It's just-
appreciate that.
It's good. We get it.
So that's something I've always reminded the directors, do your homework at home, so we don't have to come in here and take up precious board time on some levels, so.
And Jeff, the good Jeff, you also pointed out at the last meeting how actually something that, took me a while to catch on, but you pointed out as a pipe is lined, you lose the effective diameter, correct? So your depth of flow actually, if you originally, whatever your diameter was, but then it gets reduced, that affects the depth of flow, yes?
Yeah, so we're lining pipe, but the type of liner we're putting in has a better coefficient than the clay pipe for resistance, for ease of flow. So hopefully that will counteract the depth and keep the water flowing at a better flow rate to reach that in between 2 feet and 10 feet per second. So we won't go over that 70% too much. It'll be flowing better.
Okay.
But we'll track it. We'll get you more data, just like, send you more data. We'll put together dashboards. And you'll be able to see it from here on out.
And Jeff, we've had some, and FYI, we've had some email exchanges in the background. I'm impressed, sir. You're on it. So thank you.
Yes, I'm here to support you guys. So, that was the basic slide. We're going to give you all the information you need to set those standards, because.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we need, but not always at a board meeting. Just push it out to us.
Okay, so I guess we can close subset A and move on to subset B, cost allocation for the Kipling replacement.
I think we need to set up like I said before, have a meeting with the developer and work this out.
He's online.
Do you want to be?
Did you get the email that he sent? Jeff circulated an email from
Actually, it came from
Brett.
somebody else.
Brett emailed Jeff this morning about 8:30, and I asked him to send it out to you all. I think it probably went out about 3:30, so you probably
I missed it.
I don't see it.
okay.
Only print it.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
make a few copies of that.
Just to make sure, Dylan, there is nothing privileged in that email, right? I'm looking at it now. I mean, this is for the par to discuss it right now, right?
Yeah, so this email that you got from Jeff this afternoon was a forward of what Mr. Blank emailed to him.
Yep.
So nothing here that concerns me. In fact, Brett, you're welcome to hear it from him if you'd rather.
Yeah. Brett, you have the floor if you'd like to unmute and join in the discussion.
Perfect, thanks. I'm just pulling up my email to make sure I know what I thought I said. So- But first of all, to echo your comments about Jeff, Jeff's been great. So just starting to work with you guys, but Jeff's been super helpful. So I appreciate that. And also kudos to the entire board that, doing this across the country. What you're walking down that same path is pretty typical, and it helps us developers with stable ground. When you evaluate a piece of ground, if you know the mark, everybody's playing with the same mark, and it helps with property values and everything else. And truly, we hold properties. It's better for us because if I'm going to hold it for 30 years, I absolutely want to know that the capacity is there. So kudos to everybody on that. So I think my big question was, I knew that Jeff was going to try and talk about what the percentages were and where they were at. And we completely understand that that's still in process and they're working through that. Our goal for us was truly just to see if there's a path for us to get to permit issuance, since the question isn't within our on-site design. And if we have an understanding of what that fix may or may not be, and I knew at the time whether it was lining or it was replacement or whatever, if we could, have the attorney groups get together and come up with some type of agreement that, substantiates the fact that we agree there's going to be some type of cost sharing, and we'll figure out how that works. And, we could tie it to, we can't tie into the system until that, whatever's done, but allows us to do that, 6-8 month work in advance now while this process is being completed, the fix on Kipling.
So Brett, I believe we're talking about a line replacement rather than a liner.
Okay.
So I'm thinking we're gonna upsize to a new PVC line. We're waiting for Jeff Tice to get back in the room here. So if I'm speaking out of turn, or I'm not speaking correctly, but I believe that the board's decision will be to replace the clay pipe with the new PVC pipe. And then Jeff's back in the room. Did we not request to get bids or start requesting bids for this area to upsize into a new PVC replacement line for the clay pipe over there?
We haven't got the bids yet, so we're looking into the bids to, we did go from we talked about it last board meeting.
So Brett, what's your time frame on, we're moving forward with this, so Jeff, just to summarize, he's getting the bids, we're working on all this stuff. So what is your time frame looking like?
We are actually ready for water and sewer to go in the ground now. So for us, as every developer, today would be great, but understanding there's a process to get through to get there, to get everybody on the board comfortable that there's enough of an agreement in place that for us to move forward, you're covered in the fact that we would participate however that happens. So for us, it'll take us about 4 to 5 months to have all the utilities, streets and roads put in to where we would go for vertical permit. And even at that point, we wouldn't need to be tied into the system. We'd like to be, but wouldn't need to be. And then we've got another 5 months of construction. So actual occupied homes is 10 months down the road.
So you're needing action by end of August?
No. We would like to start our construction now, which is putting in the water and sewer, which is the permit you have, pending that agreement that, we would come up with whatever that fix is and sign off and contribute however that works. And we could put ranges, I think I put in there, whether it's percentages or dollar amounts. However, to what you were just talking about, I'm sorry, I didn't know the council's name, but when you've referenced staff, that's typically what you'll see is that, it's either based on a percentage, based on how much you're increasing over the X delta and stuff like that.
So I guess the two variables we don't have is the staff is going to develop the policy. We will await the bids that Jeff Tias, the manager, is working on. So we have two variables right now we're not solid on. So I think we'll have to update as this goes along. We did request bids at the last board meeting, so we are in the process of getting bids on this work.
Well, that's what I was saying. If we get to a point where we can agree on a percentage, then we don't need whatever the bids are. They are. We understand PVC pricing and gas and everything else. So I guess I'm doing the foot stomp. The faster I could get my permit, the better the percentage looks.
I understand that completely.
Glad to hear that, actually.
So.
Director Plotkin, you're looking to say something?
No, I was just I think Brett just said that. I apologize, Mr. Blank. That I think they're looking for kind of, I don't know, Dylan, is there any contingencies or anything that can be moved along to where the district has certainty that, these replacements or whatever will be paid for? But is there any other, I guess, measures that can be used here to, I guess, let the project proceed as I understand it?
Yeah, I think the strongest protection the district has that the developer will make good on whatever agreement comes down the road is not connecting to district infrastructure until that agreement's made and followed through on. So I think Mr. Blank's suggestion that they not tie into the district itself, I think he phrased it, plug the sewer until the downstream fix is in place. That's a pretty firm obstruction and a pretty solid guarantee of performance. If you have this entire development constructed and then you don't have anywhere for the sewage to flow, the district will keep a pretty tight rein on the agreement.
I was a little worried about that. We would just get that in writing because I was worried about it after the application. Was that an agreement or not? I don't want to imply there's anything there.
Well, yeah, so I guess the way I would do it is just approve the on-site development and include an explicit condition that acceptance and performance of a upsizing agreement on terms to be developed
When information.
be completed prior to connection to the district. And then you hammer it out. I mean, it could take, I don't know what position they're going to take with respect to their obligation to pay for that upsizing, but I agree that the likelihood that they will pay more increases the sooner they can begin their development.
Yeah. Mr. White, just a question for you. If you were to implement your number 2 there to plug the sewer, what's the cost balance for you guys? Which is more cost advantageous to you? I'm concerned. This might surprise some people. I'm concerned about your costs. I want to make sure they're as low as possible while we're still meeting our constituents' needs. I want to try to balance that as best we can.
Gotcha. So for us right now, we own the ground and we have for a while. So again, it's been our fault. We're the ones who stepped on this and let the permits go. So now at this point that I'm involved and we're trying to get forward, every day that I hold the ground without having the homes built costs me. So I'm just trying to accelerate that front end process.
So let's say if we were to have a group from Green Mountain Water that met with you guys, try to develop an agreement, and we did that in the next 30 days, would that be helpful to you?
Oh, super helpful. Yeah.
So Brett, is the sewer, is it in the street or is it on your property?
The sewer ties in, and I apologize, I don't know it I don't know if it ties into Exposition. I think it ties in just southeast of the church. And I don't know what road that one is. I think that's where the tie. So
Yeah,
we would.
so to the point, I know that if we had to tear a street open twice, right, to plug it and then come back and add this new sewer, that's the additional cost.
Yeah.
I think you
Like
could
to avoid
manage
that.
probably your construction site where you're probably not doing a lot of redundant work, correct? With this plugging of the sewer.
Well, I think with the sewer, what I'm talking about is you put the manhole in, you actually install the tie-in and you put the plug in. And so the system is not active. Same thing with water. The water would be tied in near the tap. Either you put the tap in a jumper or not, and it's just not active. So you can't physically utilize the system.
Yeah, I'm clear on that. Okay.
So that just puts us, to your point, it puts us at risk. I mean, if we go build 29 homes and have all the construction into it, yeah, the impetus is on us to help facilitate the agreement getting done.
Also, Director Garner, can you make your super hopeful suggestion motion? You would say it better.
I would say it better. Gosh.
I didn't catch it. I wasn't paying attention to the very beginning.
Well,
Get it together, get a developer
Yeah.
team to work together within the next
a
30
group
days.
from the board to meet with staff group. Let me say it. 2 members of the board and staff to meet with the developer and work out an agreement as quickly as possible.
to start soon.
I
That sounds
can,
great.
I so move.
Does that need to be a motion? I think it's just,
I think you're setting up a committee there, so it should be back.
okay.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a second discussion. No discussion, call for vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 You get to appoint whoever you want.
Yeah, I should have said we should have discussed that.
Too late, you're one of the two. The motion passes. Yeah, that's it. Three-dimensional chess. That's fine.
Okay.
So I think also sort of inherent in Rex's request is approval to begin on-site construction now. Is that contemplated by that motion? You want to withhold that permission until the committee is met?
I think that would be the prudent thing to do. I think we could move forward.
It's probably the prudent thing to do, but I'm very appreciative of Mr. Blank's effort to work with us 2 meetings in a row. And his company's backing, and he's speaking for the company who says they want to create an agreement. So I'm willing to say, let them go now, but that's not necessarily a legally prudent move, I suspect.
We do have a document you can sign. I can bring it in.
Well, would they not be taking the risk by putting in the infrastructure without having an agreement? I mean, to me, I think they would be bearing
You're probably right.
most of the risk. We would not be, because we're not allowing them to hook in, but they would be bearing the financial risk of having the infrastructure put into the ground.
I'm just trying to be a little flexible here because this board historically has sort of a public persona about it of being anti-development, and I've worked with all of you and I've never felt that. So I think this is an opportunity for us to say we're not anti-development. We're just trying to be smart about it for our constituents. So I'm good either way.
Yeah, my concern for the district is considerably alleviated if the approval to proceed with on-site is accompanied by the condition that final tie-in not occur until
Right, there's an agreement in
agreement and
place.
completion and performance of that agreement.
So you're okay with me signing that tonight and then going forward based contingency on the committee and okay, so
Right.
want to bring the
Well, but
blueprints
what
in.
you're signing tonight does not stipulate that.
Right, I mean, we should write it in. I mean,
Okay,
it should,
okay,
certainly,
very
yeah,
good,
yeah, not
But
just.
can that be basically made as a direction to write this in? So basically, Mr. Baker would sign a document, but with a vote behind it of that stipulation be written in? I mean, can we write it in by hand?
Yeah, let me,
Let's
me
get
take
the
one.
words from Dylan.
I second the sentiment of us being flexible, and I really appreciate Mr. Blank coming to us like this. I mean, this is the way most conversations should be in my mind. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And we really appreciate that, Brad. This has been good.
I hope you appreciate that we're willing to meet any developer at least halfway.
No, this is truly to your point. This is how it's supposed to work. And when it works like this, it's so much easier because at the end of the day, all of us are trying to build the best thing possible for everybody around. So it's really the goal. So,
Happy homeowners in Lakewood. That's important to me.
oh my gosh.
and frankly, I hate to write on printed documents. What I would prefer to do is just provide language to your drafter to include here on the document in type. But I think it would be fine for the board to move and vote on that and sign it at their convenience when you can turn that around.
Okay.
So we'll hold off on signing this. So create a new document.
Yeah,
So
so
I'm usually available anytime, Brad, if you need me. Oh, we need to make a motion to approve the addendum. Is that what you're gonna call this, Dylan? An addendum to?
I would say approve the plans
With the amendment,
subject to
subject
conditions.
to successful conclusion of agreement between the board Committee and, is it Cardell?
No,
Homes?
American Homes.
American Homes.
American Homes.
My memory faded out 3 sentences prior.
No, sorry, and I have a different
Just vote.
understanding. I'm thinking that it's not subject to getting an agreement, that we're signing the plans with the condition that it won't be hooked up, and then we can have time to work on
Yes.
that agreement. So the condition to insert would be not to connect.
He
To the
needs to
main.
get his building
And then
going.
he can start doing.
He
the
can start
building.
building, we
while
can
we-
work this background administrative document stuff.
I'll withdraw my motion and support yours.
Is it-
Substitute.
is that where we're at? Does that sound right?
That's
Yes.
good to me.
Okay. He's nodding too, so we're good. All right, so the motion is to approve the plans with the condition that it will not be hooked up to the main until the agreement, cost sharing agreement is worked out.
I will second. Do we have discussion? No discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
I,
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays, so the motion passes.
Progress.
So Brett, when you have that document ready, I will come in and sign it for you.
I super appreciate that and appreciate the board's time and willingness to work with us and help us over the hump. So we're there to help make the city better.
Okay, thank you so much.
And
Thank you, sir.
I will-
He's going to provide the language.
Yes, I
correct?
will get you language this week.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And we'll get that turned around.
Okay, I'm gonna close out. I think that closes out the 10700 West Exposition agenda item. We're gonna go, move into agenda item number 7, district manager transition. So, Jeff, I believe we're wanting to ask you how it's going, how you doing? And I think the second question would be, do you know, or do you see a time frame where we can release Kristen and their company from their services and put you at full control?
Yeah, so I've been working well with Kristen, and we've been designing standard operating procedures for the district manager and the staff to follow. So we're in the process of doing that, and Kristen's given us all the information we need to do that. We have staff meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She attends when she can. So we are in the process of transitioning, just working out all the nuts and bolts to make sure we're covered. And make sure we're covered with Denver Water, Metro Water Recovery, Special District Association. So we're covered on all those. So we can transition either 1 to 2 months or less, and then we can always contact Karen with any questions. So.
Well, I think that just from, our concern about costs, I mean,
Yeah,
sooner is better than later.
that's fine.
So, can we go ahead and say a month, with a month, and if you need an extension, we'll go ahead and discuss it at that time.
Oh, yeah, we could, if it is a high cost, we could transition a lot sooner, less than a month. Because we do have procedures in place already, and we could just use Karen as a normal consultant where she just charges X amount of time if we have to ask her a question, which would be a lot less cost.
Well, I like that idea.
Why
A
don't
whole lot less cost.
why don't we go down that road? So,
That's fine.
does that work for the board, Alex?
Yeah.
Board?
Sure, I thought that's what she was already. She by
We're
the
trying to, we're
hour.
trying to get the ETA. We're trying to get it at that time.
And you're saying faster.
Faster, you know me, faster.
Faster better
Mhm.
works.
But she is
She
an hourly consultant currently.
Yeah, so charges per hour, so.
Okay, any further discussion on the district manager transition? No, I'm gonna close out agenda
No.
item. Oh, what?
sorry. Do we need an official vote? Do we have kind of a solid plan, or we're just ending it, or where are we at? Sorry, just to clarify.
So it sounds like Jeff's gonna be, as needed. And he's gonna be trying to get through trying to get these policies and everything set, and then he can use her as needed, going forward. we don't have a good time.
Yeah, if we're paying her per hour now, we could just work with her less and less and less, so we could, I don't know how many hours she charges per month, so if we want to reduce costs, we could just start reducing that now and just get to specifics on what we need going forward.
I think, we need to do that in the sake of economy, so.
Yeah, so,
Because we don't need redundant managers, so
No.
unless you need them, so.
yeah, she's turned over, Kristen has done a great job turning over all the contacts already, so I'm in contact with all the important partnerships we have, so it's kind of a done deal already, so we're just working out some logistics, working out some documentation.
Well, just let us maybe know at the next regular board meeting how you're feeling, Jeff. So, yeah,
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
thank you.
All right, so then we're going to close number 7 and move into agenda item number 8, legal matters. Dylan, you're on deck.
There are not really. Well, okay, so there are aspects of legal that are going to be talked about in executive. I'll give the non-privileged portion of those now, and then while we're going into executive, if the board decides that that's what it wants to do, I'll text Scott and he'll join us to give the privileged portion.
Why don't you go ahead and text them?
Okay. The first is the email that you received from Scott yesterday about the extension of time. He wasn't able to get a draft completed for your review before tonight, so he has filed a request, a second request for an additional 2-week extension. So the answer brief is currently due on the 29th, a week from today. And whether, my understanding is that Scott's going to have a draft, an answer brief ready by the 29th if the extension is denied. If the extension is granted, he'll have a draft available for the board's review and discussion within that time frame. A second extension of time is probably going to be granted, but it's not as clear cut as a first. So it's entirely possible that the extension will be denied, the answer brief will be due on the 29th, and he'll just file, and you may not have the opportunity to speak with him, although I expect that he will circulate a draft before he files it, so you can at least review it.
All right.
And the second matter is the email that you received today, which is a proposal for settlement discussions pertaining to the bill of costs. And Scott's going to speak to that more fully.
All right. We need to prepare to move into executive session then.
Yes.
Yes, would it be okay while we're in executive after these things are done to discuss the negotiating limits, or is that just public with the developer? Just leave it up to the committee?
Oh,
Just-
for the expo
Yeah, for the
exposition
expo.
property. Yeah, we can talk about that. That is also something that you can talk about in executive session if you want to. put that under
I would rather
negotiations.
do that there.
Great,
Um,
so it could be after your discussion with Scott. That would be a good first pass, I think.
Okay, so we're going to close out agenda item number 8. We're going to agenda item number 9, executive session. The district's attorney, Dylan Woods, will read the sacred words and move us into executive session. This will not be open to the public. He will be coming out at some non-determined time, and the public is welcome back into the meeting at that time. So with that, Dylan.
So you get to read the first part. You can.
I move the district adjourn into executive session to discuss the legal advice concerning Big Sky litigation and the
Exposition.
10700 West Exposition Committee negotiations.
And there's one of them.
No.
Well, both of them fall under big sky litigation, I'd say. And modifying this a little bit, the Big Sky litigation portion of the executive session, that is going to be attorney-client privileged and will not be recorded. The negotiations is not attorney-client privileged and should be recorded. So we'll need that to be technically 2 executive sessions.
Okay, so do we have to come out and go back in?
No, but we do. I will mark the times and we'll note them.
So
on the record.
Sam's up there, they'll cover that, so I think we're good to go.
All right, is there a second?
Second. Discussion? No discussion, call the vote, all in favor of moving into executive session, say aye.
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 We have 5 ayes, 0 nays, the motion passed, we will be moving into executive session.
That's all right, thanks. As the district's attorney, it is my opinion that the discussion of the matter announced in the motion to go into executive session for the purpose of receiving specific legal advice on the questions concerning Big Sky litigation constitute a privileged attorney-client communication. I am therefore recommending that no further record be kept until the executive session has been concluded. The time is now 6:56 and we are turning off the tape recorder. The time is now 7:50 and I have turned the tape recorder back on because the attorney-client communication is finished. The executive session has been concluded for purposes of receiving legal advice regarding the Big Sky litigation. The participants in the executive session were the directors, litigation counsel, Scott Gessler, district manager, Jeff Tyus, and me, general counsel for the board, Dylan Woods. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matter not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. Seeing none, we now move into executive session for strategy and instructions for negotiations and positions on matters which might be the subject of negotiations concerning the 10-700 exposition development cost sharing. The executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were the directors, myself, general counsel for the district, Dylan Woods, and district manager, Jeff Tyus. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matter is not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. Seeing none, the next agenda item is.
Okay, we're moving into the additional agenda item number 11, which is engineer addition. So I will yield the floor. We need to come up with a job description.
Well,
We have not, I have not done any work on that. So it sounds like I didn't even ask Mr.
Yeah.
Tyus, JT.
Yeah, I collected job descriptions and pay salary grades. So there is pros and cons of this. So we have a perfect example job descriptions from other water utilities, and we do have salaries from not only the special districts, but also like Denver Water. And so the pros, you already listed all my pros based on my interview and the email I sent out. There's a lot of good things, hiring engineers. Just right now, there is some cons, and I can put this all together in a PowerPoint, or if you guys don't like PowerPoints, a report before next board meeting, because some of the cons are, right now, engineers are in big demand, and they're relying on the Federal Government Infrastructure Act to go through, and pieces of it are going through, so pay grades, pay scales are dramatically increasing in engineers. So depending on what level engineer you want, we probably couldn't afford a higher level engineer. If we go with an entry level engineer, we could afford that, but then we gotta be specific on the type of job description we want them to do and our goals. So if our ultimate goal is to review engineering standards and set those up and reduce the cost of outside contract engineers, we can do that. And also mention too on one of my emails too is, if we can't afford a full-blown engineer because of the pay scales are outrageous, we might look into a project manager, you know, that kind of does the same thing with, at a lower pay scale. The project manager would review all the standards and compare it to industry standards, because, you know, all they're gonna do is look at books and talk to engineering companies anyway, and also be able to provide better project management, better documentation on things like replacing lines and creating capital improvement lists. It's just, so all you're doing is the pros, yeah, you have a staff engineer, you reduce costs from contract engineers. The con is, hey, might cost too much for a staff engineer. And then the pro of project manager, yeah, you're gonna pay less, you're gonna get more project management, but you might not have the skill and ability of a full-blown engineer, but they can work with contract engineers.
Well, we need to create a level of ownership right into the district, like the employees, each one of these employees have, and that is working for the district. And
Yes,
bringing someone in-house, as we talked about, you have to have this sense that you are, Green Mountain comes first, and then
yes,
customer, Green Mountain is first, and then everything else is secondary. And so if that it can be achieved with a project manager, and they know how to understand the thresholds, like if we're going to go into this, how we can, if you're going to come in with a project, if it's like a developer and they need to build out something, then we can bring in an engineer. And I like to your point, when we were talking to you in the interview thing, I'd like to see us spread this out a little bit more. I don't want to just get single sourced, single-ended, where you get a tunnel vision with things going on. So that's my opinion.
Oh, how much, for lack of a better term, menial work does Merrick do? How much is true engineering? How much is below engineering?
It's all engineering.
Well, but you know what I'm saying? Like a lower, what is truly a high level engineering work and what is basic
High level
engineering?
engineering work is where you need that stamp on these plans. That's high level. You have to have that. You have to have somebody stamp
Because
that.
to me, I guess my simple thought is that, I want somebody that cuts costs and is on our team. If we just bring somebody in that doesn't do that, we're wasting money again.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous in the project manager thing for that reason. I've worked on a couple of large projects designing new airplanes for the Air Force as part of the contract team. And the project management people were really good at filling in little line in the Excel spreadsheet or the project management form, but they weren't the kinds of people who would take the initiative and go out and negotiate for a better deal. And that's what I'm looking for, somebody who could sit down in a room with an engineer from the developer, for example, and say, well, no, you're asking for twice what you should be asking for here, because that is not minimum standard engineering. You're creating a 5-star development at our expense. That I'd expect an engineer to be able to have those kinds of discussions. So, and I do think if we invest in the right kind of engineer, we'll pay dividends on the other end of reducing costs, getting exactly what we want. But I don't want, if we shortchange, for example, if we went for, trying to remember what the numbers were, the ones that I had working for me, 3.
yeah, engineer 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
Yeah, this job description I have is a utility engineer 1. Just to give you a rough idea, I worked for HR engineering for over a year, and just intermediate engineering make $150,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an expensive thing.
Very expensive. Engineering is very expensive. So when you get into advanced engineering,
What are we
It's 100.
spending with Merrick?
We're paying a lot more than that.
well, yeah, they usually charge 2.5 times their rate per hour. So if we're paying $200 an hour, somewhere around there. Yeah, so you can imagine.
So we never get, so like say, for example, at my architectural firm, we have architects and they're like $175 an hour.
Mhm.
Okay, but if they pass it off to a project manager, $130 an hour. If it's, the work is just CAD work, it's $110 an hour, depending on what level they are. So, but we always are just paying at the top of the scale. We don't
She's the
have any
one that's been
lower.
checking the-
No, they have several personnel, so a lot of, like, Allison is their engineer one, we do a lot of work with her, Terry's the project manager.
So like what
she's
does
at a different-
Allison charge us?
I wanna say 150, and then Terry would be 200. I might be wrong, because I just heard
Yeah,
that
I mean,
number, so.
Give you
Well,
a
I'm
personal example.
Yeah.
When I was contracted with Dixon Brown, DC law firm, large firm. I billed them 400 an hour.
Wow,
They billed me to their clients 800.
wow.
And we might
Double.
be doing that because we do a lot of work, then the developer pays us to pay Merrick for. So some of it that they
Yeah.
call it the reimbursable, and some of the stuff, so we
Well, do
have,
we mark it up going back though?
I don't
No,
think
we
so.
don't. We can't.
That's just cost. But we end up with all of those costs, sometimes, well, when we were doing big developments and like union stuff, we end up paying Merrick $1 million for all of those costs coming in, and it's.
So we are not allowed by law to add any markup?
We're a nonprofit, right? So we can't do that. There's reasonable costs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just pass through your costs, but you don't, mark up.
We don't make any money on the deal.
But they are still paying, so some of, it's not all of the district costs to bear. So, there's a difference there. So if there's downtime, or there's, we will have tasks that the district needs done, but also some of that cost is the developers that they will pay.
Okay, so I'm stuck on this cost thing because the accountant. So there's no, like, if we're setting all this stuff and say Doug or whoever's dealing with all of them, we can't charge any kind of a coordination fee?
That's staffing. We have staff fees. It's in our rules and regulations what we charge out.
Do we actually charge them?
Yes,
I'm just asking.
yes.
Yeah, so, but
I'm
it's
just
all,
making
it's all
sure.
actual costs. So yeah, the district, whatever staff time the district spends can be recouped from the developer, if that's the agreement. But, and whatever pass-through engineering costs are appropriately reimbursables, but. no markups.
But we don't account for it like you guys do for our 10-minute increments or whatever. you
Yeah, so it's,
So the point was that there is probably some justification that is, the question is that worth it? To invest that much in a staff engineer?
Well, and
I agree that the engineer is gonna be better than the project manager.
Yeah, and what's the value of trust the board develops in the engineer who works for you?
You're not, look, I totally believe in everything in-house. I'm an in-house guy. I've had more problems with third-party things and look, and it's nothing personal. It's just that by nature of those relationships, they tend to get abusive over time. For whatever reason, it's not.
Well,
there's
that's
no
what I was gonna
intent
ask. So
there.
what if we actually put out a bid to other engineering firms? I
Well,
mean, could it force Merrick into bringing their rates down?
I'm gonna let Jeff talk here because he had explained some of his experience at his prior employer, and he talked to Karen and I. He didn't have just one engineering house he worked with. He worked with.
Oh, no, yeah, Arapahoe County Water Wastewater Authority, we worked with 5 different engineering companies all at once, but we did have a district engineer, which was respect engineer, a person named Alan Leak, who is just like Terry, who worked with the district for over 20 years. So, but it reduces, Alan worked with a lot of districts, and I know Terry works with a lot of districts also. So, they're not going to charge a whole lot of money. And we determined, it wasn't Alan Leak and Respect Engineers who determined where we go to. We did have project managers, but we also had a staff of 4 engineers. Also, we had 2 entry-level engineers right out of mines, and then senior engineers, 2 senior engineers too. So I think if we went with engineer 1, we could probably maybe, look at pay scale somewhere. Yeah, I don't think it would go, I hate to say it, it might be above 90,000 or 100,000 a year starting, because they're in huge demand. Right now, you know, there's a director of engineering for Arapahoe County Water, and the pay scale is between 120 and 160, and it's for, you know, senior engineer with 10, 20 years experience, and nobody puts in for it because a lot of the engineers that work for the companies are making 180,000 a year. So so our options are probably,
Got the wrong degree.
well, at this moment in time, back in the 80s, you know, if you graduate from mines in 88 with a chemical engineering degree, you couldn't get a job. But so we could look at, you know, our options are probably, I'll give you more in depth, I'll give you a better presentation where, hey, this is engineer one, these are the pay, this is the pay scale, this is demand, and this is engineer 2 and 3, and then I'll, you know, we don't have to throw in project manager if you don't want to go that route. I just do it in there just in case it costs too much.
When I put out or propose something, is it feasible for us to do a, say like we worked with Clover, someone else, and we share an engineer?
Yeah, the only risk that you'd run into is if you have a project with them, you'd have to, somebody would have to spin off for another engineer.
So what do you think? What do you think of that? If we, you know, I guess these are, I want to think outside the box, look at all options. So, you know, we know what kind of an appetite we have for an engineer. It's like, so if we had this engineer one, how much of that appetite could that engineer manage? And then is it a full-time, you know, can we justify working that position full-time? I think we can.
Well,
But
I
then-
could put that in the option for next board report. Say, hey, look, here's the job descriptions, and here's a spreadsheet on the actual duties they would do. You know, everything from overseeing, you know, we write an SOP where if somebody wants to develop in our area, they come and talk to us first before they talk to anybody. You know,
Jeff, you just made me think of something, and I don't know, maybe you're a good person to ask, but how many are there engineers who are, say, moms or something, who only want a halftime position? You know, just so say it's a 180,000, you know, can we get a part-time person for 80 or 90,000 and have them half-time, but they're truly qualified at the level we want?
Your district probably could not. Your engineering needs are probably significant enough that, like, there are folks that do like a couple of my smaller districts share an engineer. So he's the guy, one engineer, and works for 5 districts.
Right.
But there is no development. It's just ongoing sort of maintenance issues and main breaks, things like that. I would suppose that you push enough work out to an engineer that you would need somebody pretty close to full-time that is, if you get an engineer 1, you're still pushing a lot of work to Merrick. Engineer 2, less, but still, I don't think at any point you're not pushing work to an outside firm. Something will come up, like an IGA or a 400 unit development that somebody's not going to be able to handle.
St. Anthony's Hospital.
It's a stamp level. You're working at a stamp level
Yes.
of engineering. And that's the delineation of the engineering 1 and going to that next level where you have to have stamps. So how much of that work, I don't know.
Yeah, the Arapahoe County Water Wastewater Authority, we use Merrick Engineering to stamp our new development. But we had Carollo Engineering, we had Jacobs Engineering, so we had Wright Water Engineers, so we used a lot of different engineering firms, but Merrick, it was part of the procedure, so we had a new development procedure, and Merrick would have to stamp that to make sure legally we were covered.
Yeah, what you probably want to look for is at what salary point can you keep back enough work from your contract engineer to recoup them? Yeah.
Right, yeah, to me, it's a function of money.
That's why we have to know how much is stamped and how much is not. That gets back to, what's the name of that person that worked at Merrick that for 100.
Allison versus.
Yeah, how much of that work?
Okay, could we lure Allison away?
would love
She's
to.
actually in Denmark. She went there, she's in Denmark.
Oh, yeah.
taking Another degree.
Can you reach out to her?
You know, I don't think we have any idle time in which somebody, an engineer wouldn't be doing something. It would take, I would imagine, a 40-hour week for an entire year just to fix the master plan.
And get the model in-house, yeah, and get the standards for.
So I don't think we're, and I wouldn't want that to be an engineer one.
I agree.
Maybe with the two, I'd say, yeah, okay, but I want somebody working that who I would have confidence in, the board would have confidence in, that it's right, and we can take it to the bank.
And I think you'll want to stay. I think the only way that you're gonna meet that price differential is if your in-house can stand.
Yeah.
plans.
Well, keep in mind, so when you get into a lot of true engineering work with stamps, now you're getting the auto, you know, all this, you're getting AutoCAD, you're getting the super high tech, you know, the master plan is based on the latest and greatest computer software. So you're getting a lot of technology that would add cost to it too. AutoCAD.
Yeah.
Computer modeling is expensive.
Yeah.
You
The
know,
modular
we-
software is
the-
proprietary.
The simple fact is that we've gotten ourselves into the position of where we're saying we need somebody because we've been dissatisfied with the service we've received elsewhere. I'm not mentioning names. So where's the balance?
And there are other firms.
Yeah, and, you know, the standard is to have a district engineer for, you know, like, we're talking about all districts have an outside district engineer, so. If we went in-house completely, we'd be breaking that, we'd be plowing a new road.
I don't think that's the intent.
Yeah, no,
The intent is
no.
to be completely, I mean, we can't have
My,
some of those.
yeah, my
bills-
intent is to save money. My intent, you know, and you have more control if they're in-house.
So you gotta have, the key thing is getting back to the fidelity of what you're hearing or both seeing, right? So that's the one thing, then we're followed by cost, right? Because if you're, you know, regardless, whatever you're paying, if you don't have a fidelity or you don't believe it, what good is it?
So that means that eliminates what we're talking about, that puts us into the engineer two, because you have to have.
Well, that's what I'm trying to,
at
I'm
least-
trying to get these
Yep.
cats herded up here. So we're at a minimum of an engineer two.
Yep.
And like I said, maybe we start there. And I think it would be worthwhile to maybe reach out to these adjoining districts and see if there would be interest in
Oh, like someone else we could share with?
a cost sharing agreement.
It could be, and I agree that if you want to put it out as a part-time and then we just do more contract work, it's, you know, that may be
Well, I
the
just,
best
you
thing.
know,
You don't
I'm
know.
just throwing it out there because to me, I mean, you know, if you get a mom who say their kids are in school and they have from 9 to 2, or they have 4 or 5 hours and they can make 80 or 90 grand a year and work part-time, to me, I think that'd be a pretty viable option for somebody if you want. I mean, how often can you get like that part-time work? And in today's, you know, work from home kind of or whatever environment, I mean, I think people like the idea of, like, I was surprised the other day, I was talking to someone at the gym, this young guy, and he was telling me, which surprised me, and he was like, oh, well, I have this part-time computer job, blah, 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 blah. I only work 20 hours a week. I make $70,000 a year. And he's like, because I like to mountain bike and play. And I'm like, why don't you want to work 40 hours a week so you make $140,000 a year? And he's like, oh, no. Playing is more important to me than the money.
There's a lot of
And I
people-
thought, well, you didn't grow up when I did.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, to
Hasn't paid
me,
enough taxes yet.
right. I mean, so I was just thinking, is there people out there that's an option?
So
for
that's a
them?
headhunter. You're talking about going to a headhunter that will take that information and they will go do that. And the headhunter's what, about 6 to 15,000, somewhere in there?
Not necessarily, say, you can post it for that and see what comes up. You don't have to limit your options.
Well, I mean, do you even think that's a viable?
Everything's
No,
viable.
but I have
Everything's
to say,
possible.
it could be a stay-at-home. male spouse.
That's fine.
Yeah, I just
I was just using mom. I mean, I don't know, because, yeah, like I have some friends with a lady, she's like a huge consultant, and my husband now stayed, he was actually an engineer at Lockheed. She made so much money, he stayed home.
What's he doing?
Nothing.
Yeah, does he want a job?
He's probably an aerospace engineer.
He is, actually is.
Yeah.
But it's funny, but she was working for a DC consulting firm and she was making so much that he said, screw the working part.
If there was somebody competent in the house here, even for 4 hours a day, I would be happy if they would oversee the contracts, but we would keep the knowledge in-house if we have somebody to do it. And that's, so however that happens, I mean, need somebody at some point in-house to do the modeling and can review all
I'd
that.
be happy with full-time or part-time. I don't care. I
Why
just
would
want
you
a
too? I'm
qualified
just saying.
engineer
Qualified
that I could speak to and say, tell me what's really going on.
Have we given you any amount of information that's useful right now to go?
Well, yeah, so what we can do, we have many options. So if we agree, so number one, we agree, okay, let's go for an engineer 2 first.
Yep.
So, okay, so if we agree with that, we can write a job description for that. Number 2, if we agree, well, let's test the waters for part-time engineer 2. And because there's plenty of industry, the American Water Association and the Rocky Mountain Water and Environment Association, we just post that on their site and see if there's any takers out there, just like you're talking about.
Could you do a sanity check with the outlying districts and ask them,
Yeah,
maybe start there and see if you're interested in an engineer share
yeah,
with an engineer 2, maybe start there. See
okay.
if someone's interested and then go into this level. So I don't know.
All right, so first step, get the engineer 2 job description prepared. A lot of the, I guess a lot of, the rules, if you go like Indeed, you have to post the
Salary.
So, but we can always just try, Rocky Mountain Water, and then I'll talk to their districts and see if they want to share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know I hate to say, most of my best friends I talk to every day are engineers. And they make a lot of money. I mean, full blown, like, one of my references, I'm sure you called him, is Matt Cook. He's the associate vice president of engineering for HDR. He left.
He was very easy to get to, by the way.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and he was a manager of utilities at Coors, and he's also a commander in the Navy. And so you can imagine, he jumped ship at Coors to work for HDR. Even though he's a senior engineer, but they're making a lot of money. Trust me, they're making upwards of $200,000 a year. So you can imagine, intermediate engineers are. When I worked at HDR, were 130, 140, 150,000 a year. So it is big money right now because there's a lot of demand.
I'm unfamiliar with the stamp. Is that a 2 level?
Well, they just have to be a professional engineer.
Yeah, that means you gotta have at least 4 years experience, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
They have a license there. They are a stamped engineer. They can put a stamp.
Great.
Which requires, 5 years experience as a real, doing engineering work, at least 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they could gain those 5 years of experience working at the district.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
because
still need the
they
stamp.
wouldn't have the stamp though.
Still need the stamp.
Well, that's though, for those instances, you find a stamped engineer for those few hours if needed.
Yeah, exactly. You could go that route too.
Okay. All right, we're going circular.
Okay,
All right.
Good, no,
No,
great
I-
discussion.
Have we given you enough to go with for right now?
Yeah, I'll start with engineer 2. We'll test the waters and the pay scales.
I think add that to the agenda for the April meeting too.
Yeah, we're gonna roll into that right now.
Well, let's not grow any grass on this one. Move it out.
So, we're gonna close agenda item number 11 and move into agenda item number 12.
You're losing me. I'm ready to go to sleep.
And we are talking about new business or notifications for the next board meeting. So we have what was the one thing I was gonna have you remind me?
Let's see, the American West lining, we gotta talk about that. We gotta polish up the standard.
Okay.
And we gotta, so create policy, draft policy, create standard, we gotta get the bids. If we want, we got a committee now, so the committee wants to get the bids on the replacement of the line.
Yep.
And
Oh, there, I thought you were doing
No,
the
I'm not
bids,
doing
Jeff.
bids on the replacement of the line.
He's gonna update you. We need to update and find out where the bids are.
yeah, if we're gonna get bids on this section of line. That's about it.
Okay,
So you're gonna keep going with that argument?
Yeah, so I'll get the 3 bids, give the 3 bids on that section of line on North Kipling to Alameda, 12-inch
yeah, let's
PVC.
get that.
And then pass it on, then you guys can negotiate with the developer on cost.
Let's put that up, and then we will put a placeholder for district engineer update, and I think that's it.
Yeah, and then American West, we should have data for the bypass pumping.
Okay, with that being said, anything else for the next meeting? Okay, I'm gonna close out agenda item number.
So Jeff, sorry. Do we
Sorry,
need,
you know, out of turn, sir.
sorry. Do we need any placeholders for legal?
It's already there. It's always there.
Okay, well, okay, so no executive session or anything like that.
It's always there.
Okay.
Dylan has 2 slots.
I'm a permanent fixture.
Okay, so
you're
I'm gonna, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second, third,
No discussion. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Meeting's adjourned at 8:51 PM.
Yay.
Thank you, staff.